These 5 tips will take your Weber Smoky Mountain game to another level. Tip number 1 seems simple, but it's to use lump charcoal every single time. The reason we choose to use lump charcoal is because I think it gives a more authentic wood flavor to anything that we're cooking. I also like that it gets just a little bit hotter. I'll show you why in just a second. Tip 1A would be to use some sort of torch. I have the torch that I just used to light this up. I also have one of the sticks that can go down inside a drum or the Weber Smoky Mountain. I find it's a lot easier than using the charcoal starters. I use those for a long time. This is a lot more efficient and quicker. Now you'll notice while I'm lighting this charcoal, I'm lighting it close to one vent and one vent only. I'm not lighting it in the middle. That leads us to tip number 2. Tip 2 would be to only open up one of your bottom vents. And when we're talking about one bottom vent, we're talking about the one closest to where we lit our charcoal. This allows me to come up to temperature just a little bit slower, and I feel like I have more control over what my Weber Smoky Mountain is doing. Another side note is that you can open all of the bottom vents if you want to. Obviously, just make sure to understand that this is going to get hotter a lot quicker. My goal with this smoke is for all of my fire or my coals to start here and burn outward, causing for a really long and a really slow smoke. I call this my double burst method. I'll show you why in just a second. At this point, you can put the rest of the Weber Smoky Mountain together. 2 things with my door. You'll notice it's right on top of my open vent, and I'm also going to take it off at this point just for a little bit of oxygen to get in there so we can get that fire a little bit hotter. Tip number 3 would be to remove that big old water pan. Now, we've been cooking with our Weber Smoky Mountain for around 4 years now, and we find it's much more efficient and we get much better flavor when we get the fat dripping on our coals. The stock water pan that comes in the Weber Smoky Mountain is a large round bowl, and it actually doesn't allow for any moisture to fall onto these coals, which I know works great, but I think it could work better. So we prefer to put a half pan in the lower level on our Weber Smoky Mountain, and we do make sure to put it away from the coals. So you could see here that we have the half water pan on the side where the coals are not lit, and we're leaving the part that does have lit coals completely exposed, and that's where the flavor is going to come from. Just to double back to one of our previous tips, we talked about getting our fire nice and hot. We've actually been using sticks of wood here to make our Weber Smoky Mountain get maximum flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right over the hot coals. And my goal is for that stick of wood to burn from where it's at all the way to the middle. Like I said, this is my double burst method. The reason that I call it that is because we're really going to get a lot of smoke from right here, and then right in the end, that's where the double burst comes from. We've got enough oxygen, we've got enough airflow, so we're gonna go ahead and close our front door up now. Tip number 4 would be to utilize the bottom rack. You'll notice that we took our water pan out. We're not gonna need it today. This is not necessarily a long cook. We just wanna show you how to use your WSM. So don't be afraid to use this bottom rack, and don't be afraid to use your 2 zones. You'll see here you have something that's a little bit hotter. Those coals are nice and hot under there. You also have this side that's your cooler zone. You could cook stuff indirect, and you can move it around as needed. We're gonna go ahead and throw some poppers down on our lower rack. At this point, you could just use that bottom rack, put the lid on top, and you're good to go. Or you could put the top rack on and cook something else like we're about to. Side tip is that as great as the Weber Smoky Mountain is, I have noticed that sometimes the thermometers do go bad. Right now this is reading at around 285 degrees or so, but I'll show you something to make sure that that's accurate. If you run a probe through this thermometer hole, you can get it all the way set up to read your temperatures at grate level. Now another hack I have is to put it on the bottom side. That way you lose absolutely 0 space on your grate. You'll notice if you put it on top, it makes it just a little bit harder to put it all the way to the edge, and you just lose a little bit of space right here. Now, although this is climbing, you can see that this is already around 325 degrees, and we're sitting around 210 here, which is a major difference. Tip number 5, and I think the coolest tip of all, you can use your Weber Smoky Mountain as a grill. Now let's just say you don't want to fire up 2 cookers and you want to grill some steaks or some hamburgers for dinner. All you got to do, pop off your lid, take your top grate off. Now remove the barrel, pop your grate right over your coals, And if you feel like getting cheeky, grab your Weber kettle lid and put it right on top. Perfect for burgers, hot dogs, whatever you want. Now your Weber Smoky Mountain can do it all. You can move all your proteins around, get a nice sear. Again, you still have somewhat of a cool zone over here. You can obviously see all of our coals are still really nice and hot. And if things get out of control like they just did, you can see I can move all the steaks to the side and we're gonna be a-okay. On top of that, if I need to, I can put the lid on top, I can close the vents, and this thing will get down in temps really quickly. I've been telling you guys for a long time that this cooker is absolutely incredible, and I think it is the best cooker at this price point. Go out and grab yourself a Weber Smoky Mountain. There will be a link in the description below. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Did we miss any tips or tricks that you guys think are vital for the Weber Smoky Mountain? Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.